And that's it for the news tonight. Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching us from our KTN Home channel, really thank you for joining us here tonight. The news continues on KTN News, and of course everything to do with 2022 here on Kivumbi 2022. And of course, we're looking at the Mount Kenya factor, the central region factor in Kenya's elections. Is the mountain shaking? Currently, we are seeing spirited divisions between top political leaders. Which way the mountain? We will be taking a look at this as we have that conversation with Professor Peter Kagwanja, who's a political commentator, and Ndaragwa Member of Parliament, Jeremiah Kioni. But first, Ken Mijungu on the other side of the studio to just take us back to the data on the history of how the mountain has voted. Ken.
Thank you, Akis. And of course, we take you back to 2007. But first, the other guest who was supposed to be here, that's Kimani Ichung'wah, was unable to make it. Don't believe what you hear out there. There are the reasons he was not supposed. He has not made it for the show, but he has undertaken to come for our next show. Let's break down the numbers for you now, because this is why we are here. Let's take you to 2007. Akisa Wandera is joining me shortly with my panel on the other side. But 2007 and the election, let's take a look at how they voted. But first, the election is December 27th, 2007. The number of registered voters almost doubled again, but went up with about 6 million votes. New registered voters, and that's the projection, by the way. The IBC says that they might increase that voting block, the total number of registered voters in the country, with about 6 million. So in 2007, it actually went to 14.3 million. A voter turnout was 69%, about 9.9 million voters turned out in that election. What was so important in 2007? You'll find out shortly. And of course, the constituencies at that time before the 2010 constitution, which we'll be telling you about, was about 210 members of parliament. This was the reason. That election was very tribal. It ended up in a very bad campaign, marred by isolated incidents of chaos. And of course, you know what happened in the country at that time between PNU and ODM. Kibaki had just fallen out with Raila Odinga in that election. Raila Odinga was the prime minister running with ODM. It was a crazy election, and of course it ended up in the ICC. So that was the reason. Let's talk about the candidates up here. It shows the candidates, and the candidate in that election that won the election, that was likely believed should have gone the other way or went the other way, was Mwai Kibaki, who became president for the second term under PNU. How many votes? 4.5 million votes at that time. That was about 46.4%. Right now, you can't win with such vote in the country. You actually need 50% plus one, and about 25 of the 47 counties for you to win that election. 46.42 could never win you an election in this country. But currently, you can't do that. Raila Odinga was number 2 with about 4.3, a difference of about 200,000 votes at that time at just 44.07%. And Kalonzo Musyoka, who had ditched Raila from ODM and joined Kibaki, later becoming the vice president after Mudi Awori, got about 8.9%. That was 879,000 votes in 2017. All right, Mwai Kibaki, this is still the same data. There were other candidates, but let's go to the other one, the next data. This was the national tally in that election, which Kibaki won. So the most important part of our discussion this evening is the central votes. Once again, how did central Kenya vote in this election? Very interesting, just like 2000, 1992, 1997, 2002, 2007, this is how they voted. Mwai Kibaki had 97.4% of the total votes from central Kenya. Basically, he swept it clean. Raila Odinga getting 1.9% of that vote. Kalonzo Musyoka was 0.7%, but Mwai Kibaki cleared the central vote. Look at the pattern. Look at the pattern how central Kenya has been voting. One of their own is in the ballot. They will sweep it. The lowest we've seen tonight is about 81%, but they vote as a block. Distribution of seats in parliament after that election. Some went down, as you would see. 190 members of parliament defended their seats in that election. Look at what happened. Only 71 out of the 190 were elected. About 119 of them went home. That was in 2007. and 7. ODM got 99, took more votes from PNU. PNU and allied parties only got 78. ODM had more members of parliament. KANU got 14 seats. Actually, it was a movement up, and ODM Kenya, Kalonzo, had about 16 seats. Let's take a look at the next slide now. Distribution in parliament still, but forget about the distribution in parliament and the incumbent slot. Let's look at what happened in 2010, because it's also important for the election to see, and you will see how Central Kenya also voted in that referendum 2010. So the total registered number of voters who went to the referendum were 12.6 million. The voter turnout for that referendum was 72.2%, about 9.1%. About 9.1 million voters went to the referendum and gave us the new constitution. The next slide. This is also important because it's yes or no, orange or banana. You remember the late Kivumbi? This is how yes took the day. 6.1 million, they all voted for yes, and that's how we got the new constitution. No was about 2.8 million, about 31%, you know, who opposed and who supported the constitution. Of course, it is our reputation, but it was a no was 2.8 million, and it was about 69% of the total voter turnout. So, away from the referendum in 2010, the next election was 3 years later in 2013. Very interesting. That election was won by by Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. Total number of voter turnout at that time of voters were 14.4 million, the total registered voters. Turnout in that election was 85.4, one of the highest according to the IBC. This is well documented, captured in the IBC portal, the internet, you can see it. That was the voter turnout. This election was won by Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. Raila Odinga, let's look at 2013 still, and total national tally for Raila Odinga was 5,340,000. Total votes cast in 2013 was 12 million. Total number of votes that were cast, 12,221,000. And for Uhuru Kenyatta at that time, Uhuru Kenyatta was URP and TNA, got about 6 million votes. That's 2013 still. Total number of votes cast was 12,221,053. 50.7% won that election. This is 2017. Once again, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka versus Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. How did they perform in 2017? We will finish by telling you how Central Kenya voted here. Raila Odinga, total number of votes at that time was 6 million. Total number of votes cast was 15 million at that time. Uhuru Kenyatta, I think there's a confusion here because this should be the opposite, how they won that election. So these numbers go the other side, the other numbers come here. But this is how that vote, once again in 2017, was won by Uhuru Kenyatta. This is an honest mistake. We apologize for this, but the other numbers, they are the other way. So Uhuru Kenyatta won that election. And finally, the most important one, Uhuru Kenyatta total national tally in the repeat election. This is the repeat election that happened on the 26th of October, if I am not wrong. Uhuru Kenyatta cleared this with 7.4 million votes. Now, this is very significant. I'll tell you why. Central Kenya vote is about this, 7.4 million. And, of course, Raila Odinga, who never participated in that election, still managed to get something about 0.96% of the vote, about 1% of the vote, 73,228. And, of course, the total number of votes for the repeat election was 7.6 million to 71. 98% of votes went to Uhuru Kenyatta. Very interesting. It was not a contested election, but Uhuru Kenyatta unanimously, from Kenyans who voted in that election, won with about 7.9 million votes. The most interesting, the number of those votes that were cast, is that Central Kenya basically holds those number of votes. If they only voted, Central Kenya only voted for Uhuru Kenyatta, he should have won that election. I'm breathless. There's so many numbers. so many numbers now to talk about. But gentlemen, thanks Akiso for joining. Once again, I want to say this. Kimani Ichung'wah was supposed to be on this table. Don't believe what you hear outside there.
Because a lot has been said.
A lot has been said and tweeted that he said he's not coming for our show. We have nothing to apologize about. Kimani Ichung'wah will definitely grace this show. Thank you, gentlemen, and Akiso for coming. Let's begin with those numbers. Very interesting. From 1992, Central Kenya has voted for one of their own consistently until the last election, majorly the repeat election. If Central Kenya and Rift Valley joined in at that time, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto would have not needed any other vote to be president. Very interesting indeed. And now we are facing another election. The question is the pattern. Do we maintain it? Does it change? Let me begin with Jeremiah.
I think the pattern is likely to be maintained, but again, this time, like we said earlier, it will be a pattern maintained because of having on the table what is it that we want addressed in our area, an opportunity that we have never had since perhaps 1963. Because I remember at one time I went to see President Kibaki, a government that Professor was actively involved in. And we wanted something done in our region. And he said, you must go out there and talk about it. Because everybody believes that since I'm seated here, you have everything. We should not be listening to anything else coming from your region. But unlike all those other times, it is an opportunity for us from Mount Kenya to bring our issues to the table, as opposed to bringing a candidate to the table.
Okay.
And these issues to the table are the issues that we need to rally about. And I want to tell you again, I don't think this is by accident. The President, Uhuru Kenyatta, designed it this way. Because
that he's not going to talk about
we have always shied away from putting what is it that worries or bedevils our area. But we have never been able to put it at the table because we have always had one of our own number.
Running for president.
And even perhaps for the longest time than any other community, we have had our own in State House. We had Mzee Kenyatta, Kibaki, and Uhuru. And like I said before, if you look at, let me give you an example that is in the public domain. If you want to check it, you can check it out. You have heard many times people saying we need to do a census within the public service. Why? Because we believe that people from Mount Kenya are occupying the biggest percentage of slots. And every time that that has been done, it's never been published. We have had opportunities, employment opportunities. And I can tell you that our young people, our youth, have had difficulties getting employed. Why? Because there is that perception that you people are already employed, you don't need these openings. So we've not gotten our fair share. And the reason is because we have always had that person at the top. But also, let me say this, why also we always have wanted to have our own at the top? And this is the thing I think Professor was alluding to. If we think that even with those numbers, we are going to get pushed to a corner because there is nobody who seems to understand us and the needs that we have, then you say the only way we can survive here is by having our own at the top. We do not have numbers in parliament that correspond to our population. We do not have people, even people in
slots that are given to you, you can't have.
We do not have people actually in positions of government today.
Kenyans will disagree with you.
Yes, but and this is the bit.
Yes, Kenyans will disagree with you.
Because the perception that has been peddled over the years is that we have been overdone, you've been overdeveloped, we have everything that requires, we have electricity, we have water, we have roads. These things are, and I want to tell you as I invited the governor of Kakamega. That time he was the Minister for Planning, Mheshimiwa Oparanya, to come to Daragwa and pay us a visit. And I wanted him to have a look at the health facilities because there was a docket that there's some money that we had been given by World Bank, and I wanted to get a chunk of it, or some real from it.
Chunk is not bad though.
If I got a chunk, I would have been happier. But I still got some real money. When he came to my constituency,
Ndaragwa,
the words of Oparanya today laying loud in my ear, and he said, I can't believe this is Mount Kenya. And he actually offered nurses from Butere to come to Daragwa.
All right. Let me go to Professor. Same question. The pattern. I'm interested in that pattern. 1992, you can't write this history away. 1992, 2022, that's how many years? 30 years. The same. Are we maintaining the pattern? Do you see the pattern being maintained, or do you think it might change? Because dynamics are so different. The voters have increased. The people who are not voting, we have new voters who have not even voted for one election, who are coming in. There are voters who are going to this election for the second time. Pattern changes, we maintain?
Yeah, the change was inevitable long before even President Kenyatta did not nurture any individual, but the patterns were coming. For 24 years, President Moi basically whipped the anti-Kikuyu sentiment in a huge way. Not only the anti-Kikuyu, but there were other anti-others, but the Kikuyu being the largest majority. And it created a consciousness that we are the oppressed, the targeted, and there was this victim mentality amongst ourselves. Now, and that is what has gradually led to this idea that we cannot get security unless our own is in that docket.
Yes.
But now, 3 things have happened. One is the new constitution. It doesn't matter who comes. You cannot erode the rights of the Mount Kenya people. They are secured like the rights of other Kenyans in the constitution. So that is one. The second is about resources. In 2007, the main discourse was that the Kikuyu dominate the resources, all things going to that. And as a result, the constitutional reform that took place did not only target power, but also resources. So devolution is more about resources than devolution of power. And what does that mean? That whoever comes to power, Mount Kenya is going to get a share of what is going to be given. So that is guaranteed. The only question is what Mheshimiwa is talking about, the equality, 1 shilling, one vote, one person.
Yeah.
That is only missing. But as far as the resources are concerned, the governor of Murang'a will get his share. The governor of Nyandarua will get his share. The governor of Meru will get his share. Finally, with that in mind, it is possible then to venture into politics of interest rather than politics of personality. There is this argument, which I don't buy, but it is taking rounds, that except for a short while, having your person under the new constitutional dispensation at the top is more of a liability than a benefit, because everybody wants to beat you. Oh, you are the head of this, the head of that, Kikuyus dominate here. Now, if we're dominating another government, nobody will notice, because the other person will be seen to be using the expertise rather than favoring the tribe.
Okay.
So you are not likely to be bashed if you are serving another government, even if you are the majority.
So,
take the example, the government of President Moi. Towards the final years, every PS was a Kikuyu. I mentioned them, Bote in KPLC, Ben Mwangi in the office of the president. I was in the university at that time, and I could tell you everybody somewhere were Kikuyus. Nobody talked about tribalism at that time, because you are serving a government that is not your own. So it's a good experiment we are having here. But let me underline what I said at the beginning. If the interests of Mount Kenya people, as stipulated by Mheshimiwa Kioni and others, are not met
on the table. And not
they are on the table, and nobody addressed them.
Yeah.
Don't rule out a Mount Kenya candidate.
Okay.
That's how we intend to get to the negotiating table, perhaps. Biggest bet.
Yeah, yes. You know,
your own candidate.
You see, when we go back home, we have, when you talk about a youth badge, the community with the highest population in Kenya has the highest number of young people unemployed. So in this country, where you get the highest number of unemployed youth is Mount Kenya region, for the reason that it is also where the population is. So it just follows. And that is where there is a lot of discontent, a lot of anger that is venting, it's coming out. And I can tell you, as leaders, I can tell, if we do not address these issues we are saying that we want to put on the table, it is more important to deal with the issues than to seek the presidency. If we do not seek the president, if we do not deal with these issues, it matters not whether you are there or not. And allow me to just say something. I'm sorry for this. When Professor talks about devolution and the assurance that we have the resources at the county level, yes, another area that we were completely misunderstood. There was some resistance of devolution from Mount Kenya region. But what was being resisted was political devolution. It was not economic devolution. When we were able to put on the table that we are devolving management of resources at the county level, devolution was embraced very quickly in our region. Why? Because people want these resources, because they will help us manage the difficulties that we have. And it is at that point that I want to say this. History is crucial. And a good politician, a good leader, must be a good student of history. If you have been objecting to the Constitution of 2010, when we look at how we can also improve the Constitution through either BBI or any other format, you still object to it.
Right.
For the reason that you think that perhaps in this document or the adjustment of it, this particular region may get their grievances addressed. For lack of a better word, you are our enemy.
Perhaps just allow me to pick it up from something you've said, and you keenly point out the issue of unemployment, which your competitor has also really keenly picked it out, and is one of his biggest campaign issue, the issue of unemployment. And the Deputy President is seen to be making inroads because of this very narrative that you say we are part of the interest you want to put on the table. So when Mount Kenya is seen to be split, others making inroads, and you'll talk to us about that, and you're talking about the same issues but different approaches to it, how then do you expect to have to take advantage of this when it comes to getting on the table that you talk about? How do you do it when you're all reading from different scripts and the mountain seems to be at a complete disarray?
We are not at disarray, far from it, and it will surprise many, including perhaps, I hope not you. You will see like the mountain is rumbling, but just give it a while. You see it settling on the issues. A lot of people would disagree. Yes, but you see it settling on the issues that I have mentioned. I have avoided talking about these economic models and the way people have perceived them. But one of the things I would want to say is that we are looking at you, and we do not want dishonesty. Don't try and take advantage of the difficulties our young people are having. I feel offended that all that you can think of doing to our young people is giving them wheelbarrows. I don't talk about wheelbarrows, but you've pushed me to the point I want to talk about it. It is so offending. It's so belittling to tell us that all that you can help us with is bring a wheelbarrow to our young people. After the years they have been working and going to education, to technical schools, looking for a better, livelihood, and then you tell us that you want to come and give us wheelbarrows.
What are these better solutions that you are offering?
They're accepting.
Yes, because...
What are these better solutions?
And I want to tell you this as a leader.
Yes.
That is where I feel insulted. You are exploiting the difficulties our people in with populist things that are not a solution. Populist things that are not a solution.
You're crying foul. The young men are not crying foul.
Yes, they are not.
Yes.
And they won't, because they are in need of anything. But as a sensible person, would you want us, is it the best thing to go around taking wheelbarrows to people? I am saying no.
Okay.
We have all the other programs that have been put together by even the whole government. The effects have not yet gotten to the young people. But what we needed to do is to quicken those efforts. But instead of quickening those efforts, you come around and turn against the president and delay his program so that you can now lie to us with a wheelbarrow.
But
these
nothing
are
has
the things,
stopped the president from
these are the things
implementing this
I have.
process.
If you see somewhere, I said we know what to do. Because we can see you through you. We know what to do. We will not allow our people to be lied to.
Basically, you want to change a sentiment that has gone round that has been largely accepted. That's how the deputy president has that kind of following that we see. You were saying, as a leader, you cannot come and hoodwink us and give us wheelbarrows after going to school. Yet, the young people are not complaining. They're receiving wheelbarrows. No. They're receiving popotanos.
They're in his rallies every day.
Yes,
where is that coming from?
No, we cover these rallies every day.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Now, remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga followed the traditional timetable of a political cycle, which is the cycle for the time for governing, when you implement what you had promised to people, and there is a time for election. The election, the governing cycle is 4 years in our Kenyan calendar, 1 year of politicking. Where you now choose the new occupants of the office. From 8th of August this year, watch this country is going to change. And why is it going to change? It is because one person has been having a frat curve from day one to now is election. If you wanted a Harambe in Mount Kenya region, who do you call? You call the deputy president to do fundraising for you, for churches, for schools, for everywhere. The others were busy doing their own programs. Now we have entered a political period. Read the mood of the moment. These young people have been getting out of the shops, the shopping center, because of factors that have been mentioned, and a massive unemployment in our region because of the size of our population. Now, they will be listening to many people, not one. They've been listening to one narrative, dynasties and hustlers.
Yes.
All the musicians in our region have been singing about debt that was owed to one person. You know, the Mount Kenya region owe about 6 debts, if you count them, from 1963. We owe Jaramogi a debt. He said Kenyatta Tosha, or Uhuru na Kenyatta. We owe Laira a debt, Kibaki Tosha. We owe Kalonzo a debt. He said Kibaki in 2008.
He left ODM, he left Raila, yes, and joined Kibaki.
And joined Kibaki. That's a debt we have. Now, we owe, from the Kikuyus, owe the Embu, Meru and Embu the debt, because
they have
voted with them.
Yes.
So if you bring this politics of debts, we owe more debts. And you can't, there are debts which are not debt.
Can I just pick it up from that, just so you can continue with that? So then why is it that it's only the mountain that consistently seems to owe everybody else and all the personalities? Is it that we have perfected the politics of deceit? What is it? Explain that to our audience.
No, the Kalenjin also was a debt. We voted more in 1975.
You owe most debts, as you said.
No, they also was debt in 1969.
Let's just finish that point. You said you owe most debts. Why?
Let him finish.
Let me just say
let him say.
Let me say this. It is for that reason that it's such a joy to sit there and watch.
Yes.
Because every time we have gotten into the leadership of this country, you cannot get there without talking to other communities. When other communities come to you, they come and say, and remember, this is a debt. So now we want to let us see who can deal with our issue and also look at this, whether we can also be owed a debt. So it's really the same thing that I'm saying, that this country, because of the way the narrative that was started by Daniel Moi, we've been like the dumping site. Everything that needs to be thrown has been thrown to our community. And I'm telling you, it's a relief to us, for us who've been in leadership. Yes. It's a relief to us. You will not understand it, but it is such a relief to somebody like me. I want to now go to those people who are looking for the president and say, these are our demands. One, the per capita income in this country. We have people in regions who are getting 20,000 shillings per year, per capita. The amount of money that goes per head to some people in this country. When you come to my region, I'm getting 4,000 people, 4,000 shillings. How are you going to address this issue? We cannot continue for another 60 years. When your area, you are getting 20,000 per head, I'm getting 4,000 shillings per head. That explains why it is very easy for you to come and sell wheelbarrows to our people. I want you to tell me that when the issue of equity was put on the table with the BBI, which you rejected, we were going to get an extra 53 billion shillings, not from your kitty, but to bring equity in the sharing of resources. We were getting an extra 53 billion shillings. You objected to it. And instead of helping with the 53 billion shillings so that I can sort out the unemployment level back home, you brought a wheelbarrow. That's why I'm saying this is the highest level of deceit. And it is good for us as leaders from our region to sit back. And I am happy with what others are doing. But it needs to be clear to us that we are not coming to sit around anywhere, Embu or wherever, to look for the deputy position, deputy president position.
I want to take
it is the interest, let me just say, it is the interest of our people. And I will be very keen to remind you, Ken, that at the point at which we wanted to benefit our people, like we benefited people in your area, you said no.
Okay.
So how can I trust you with our going forward?
At that time.
And finally on this, because it is now an opportunity to look at the character and the integrity of the individuals you want to entrust with the management of the affairs. Because if the individual has no character, if the individual has no integrity, you cannot entrust that person with the future of your community.
The reason I wanted to go back to Professor with this, you've explained that really well, but we'll pick it up from there, is Prof, you said the Kalenjins owe you a debt. 1975, they voted for Moi. Moi was never president in 1975.
I did say 75.
78. 1978?
Yes.
But 1978, he was succeeding President Kenyatta. He wasn't being voted. Why was he owed?
No, it was not. No, it was voting.
1978.
No, if you understand the politics, if you did Karevi, the Kenyatta succession, you'll see what it was all about.
No, but we have to clear this.
No,
in 1978, Moi was not seeking for votes.
No, he was seeking for support, and he got it from, and not from the Kikuyus. The Kikuyus themselves were split. The Kikuyu of Nyeri, Muranga, Nyandarua, and the others were the ones who wanted change.
And Kibaki said.
Yes.
Kibaki
and
said.
that's why Kibaki became the
vice president at that time.
Moi,
and Kibaki said, let's allow the president Moi. That's the one.
No, I just wanted to clear this because when you say they owe a debt because we voted, I think that.
This issue of debt, what Kibaki said then is that let's allow Moi to be there for the time being as we sort ourselves out.
And Kibaki could not have said that. He was not even.
Wait a minute. You don't pay attention to the soft voices.
So
it is actually Kibaki.
You're taking us away from
it is actually Kibaki who actually said, I don't want to use the words that he used. This is a passing cloud. That is a word that came around.
Yes.
And it
temporary in
It is really to tell us, calm down.
Yes.
Don't take it as a right.
Okay.
This will also go.
Right.
But he was there. He was there for 24 years.
Yes.
The passing cloud became for 24 years.
Unbelievably
and
so.
when you talk about debts, if we then even take them to be debts, I don't, then it is only logical that you start paying the old debts first before you start paying the recent ones.
And you have taken words from my mouth because I wanted to conclude when I was bringing the Moi debts and so many other debts we have.
That's why
the point is, in a democracy, if you really take yourself serious, the language of debt is itself insulting. It's very rude because you cannot go with the Mheshimiwa Kioni and then we sign a deal that I have a debt on the account of appointing him. Why are we paying $25 per voter and protecting them behind some cage to vote in secrecy and even ensuring that old ladies are escorted by professionals so that they are not conned? Because every vote in Kenya counts. If every vote in Kenya counts, if every vote in Kenya counts, at what point are you going to make a deal on a secret vote? This is the warped thinking of our elite. And I would wish that we stop this nonsense about the debts and no debts. There's nobody who's...
But it's a reality problem.
It's a reality of our politics.
No, it's not a reality. It is the myth of our politics. Because, I mean, I voted the way I voted, not because I owed anybody debt. And I'll vote the way I'll vote in 2022, not because I owe anybody debt. Remember our youth, majority of our children, don't this have nonsense of being Ruyas or being Mijikendas or being Tavetas or wherever they are. They think of themselves as Kenyans. Therefore, they will not vote as tribes.
Prof, that's the reality of our politics. Let's not run away from it.
Whoever we support in the coming.
Jeremiah Kioni said, I'll have to stop you, Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
You said the reality of our politics is that you have to speak to a community. That's how we get this.
We organize around personalities.
But not only here, even in the US, if you are an Irish, like Kennedy was, you start by saying, I'm an Irish and I'm a Catholic. That's what they are. That's identity. And politics, this is political science 101. Politics is about identity. And you mobilize a constituency. When you talk about a party, you are not talking about anything. You are talking about a group of people with like minds who come together and we have some central ideas that they want to sell, and therefore they organize themselves and capture government. State is permanent, government is transient. And therefore, when you capture government for 5 years, you have the opportunity to sell your ideas. Come next time, you're kicked out. So,
a promise?
Politics is
a debt.
Can I make a promise?
No.
Can I make a promise?
You see, the last time I had this discussion, we discussed, and I'll go a little bit away from the discussion, but let me just mention it. We said, is it a moral debt that is owed?
Debt to who?
What kind of a debt is
I wanted
There's
to
no
make,
debt.
I wanted to make a
Akisa, bring
promise.
us back.
I wanted to make a promise. We,
Let's hear that before we
from
go.
Mount Kenya region, are likely to be, by the look of things, will be supporting somebody who is outside the community. And we will not count it as a debt.
Yeah.
Maybe perhaps
yes.
to move this conversation forward, because
Yes,
we've really spent a lot of time here looking at the numbers that Ken has just shown us. And in the event the mountain fails to organize, for the first time in decades, could it be a potential swing vote region? And that's why we are seeing a scramble for the mountain from every possible presidential contender. Is it a possibility that we're thinking about?
If Mount Kenya were to come together and vote as a bloc,
The way they've been voting.
based on the interests of the community that are bringing the leaders together, they are making people who even belong to different parties to come together, and we are not even talking of forming one big political party, because we now know it's not the political party that is crucial, it's the interests of our community that are crucial.
Yes.
If we are able to vote for the person who promises us the best package in terms of sorting out our issues, that person will need very few votes from elsewhere. All we'll be doing is to mobilize people to come out and vote. So if you are looking for a way to win this, you have many scenarios. You play out as a presidential candidate. We played them out when we were there. You play all these scenarios out, and this is one of the easiest scenarios out. We have voted as a bloc many times in the past. We are likely to vote as a bloc.
Okay.
In the event you do not.
In the event we do not, the majority of the people will vote on the issues, and the person who will be voted on the issues will be the president. It happened in 2002. When Uhuru was in Kanu, we still voted, a substantial number of people voted for Kibaki.
But not on issues,
Kibaki, Kibaki, I'm not just talking about voting, not on issues.
yes.
We voted for Kibaki, Kibaki became the president. And we have seen it once or maybe once more in that kind of...
2013,
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you that where majority of the Kikuyus of Mount Kenya people are likely to vote, and I say Mount Kenya without deliberately, because you will eventually see everybody galvanizing towards the same side, then that person is likely to be the president. So those who are looking for presidency have also, by the way, let me make another disclosure. These elections are organized in the boardroom. You play the numbers on the board, all of them, and then see where are these numbers. Then you go out and work on the numbers. If you jump into the field blindly, you are wasting your time.
Professor,
Yes. Now let me say this: the idea that Mount Kenya vote as a bloc is a myth.
it's a facade.
Three times we have voted not as a bloc, and 3 times we have voted as a bloc. Between 1992 to 2002, before that, we voted as a bloc. As separate.
Yes.
So 1992, Kibaki and Matiba,
Yes.
and many others. Not only the two, there were many others. 1997, we voted again the North and the South, and this is where Charity Ngilu get a sizable number of votes. Remember, Murathe was elected on Ngilu ticket, and many other people were elected on Ngilu ticket, and the indomitable Matiba was actually elected on Nyachai's party, the People's Party. Then come 2002, we have Uhuru and Kibaki. Yeah, dividing the vote. So this idea that we vote as a bloc is not there. But what is true is that we vote interests. Because even in those 2 blocs, there was the interest of northern Kikuyus, who are largely farmers and, more kind of sedentary, not sedentary in that sense, Nyeri, Nyandarua, and so on. And then the business, which is Nairobi, Kiambu, and Murang'a. That's how Matiba gained popularity in Nairobi. So the more commercial part and more agricultural part. That is the pattern. Our interests are primary. In 2007, the interests of the business community of the Mount Kenya and the agrarian community were under threat.
Yes.
So from 2007, we united. And I think what united us is this 41 against 1. Because the moment you want to accuse us of being rich when we are poor, and we can see we are poor, and you're accusing us of being rich, then we get very angry.
Okay.
And how can we be rich
Yes.
if you are making 1.5 million shillings a day?
Yes.
How else can you be? Where else would you be counted? If you are making 1.5 million shillings a day,
but I don't think,
then you belong to the very super rich.
I think that's unfair to demonize the deputy president
I didn't.
for working hard and making money.
I have not demonized.
Who mentioned the
saying-
deputy here?
No, but that's the reality.
Professor, let me even explain what I'm saying.
Yes.
Ken, I am not demonizing. I'm saying,
You classify
again,
him.
like we were saying, Mount Kenya people have been known to be the economically empowered, the very rich people, education, development, marginalizers. We have evidence of people making more money elsewhere outside the Mount Kenya.
Okay.
So we have issues that needs to be addressed because we are not the richest in this country.
we are not.
We are in need of help from the
Okay.
government like any other community.
I'll follow up Akisa's question. The IBC says they're projecting that the total registered number of registered voters in the last election was about 20 million, 19,601,502 in the last election. IBC is projecting that about 6
Another
million
6
more
million, yes.
voters will be registered in this election. I'll break down the numbers for you. In the last election, Mount Kenya alone had 4.3 million votes. That's the last election. The highest, followed by Rift Valley at 3.8 million. I'm not counting the other figures, 3.8 million votes. Followed, followed by Western Kenya with 2.26. Then, Nyanza first at 2.6, then Western at 2.2. In essence, what I'm saying, the voting block for Mount Kenya is likely to increase by at least 1 million since the last election, looking at the distribution of 6 million votes. These votes, I'll follow up with her question. This vote, do you think it's the Tarakaniti? Let me put it simple. Do you think this will be the decider? This Mount
new
Kenya vote?
voters.
Because if you look at the number of votes that Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto won with, even in the repeat election, even in the first election, Mount Kenya votes at 4.3 and Rift Valley at 3.8. Alone, those two areas were able to guarantee the 7.9 million votes, if I'm not wrong, that they won with in the election.
Now, the problem you have in this analysis of yours, Ken, is very simple. That first and foremost, you look at the three communities, the Kikuyu, the Luo, and the Kalenjin. They have one thing in common which other communities don't have. They are communities that are able to mobilize beyond their numbers.
Yes.
So counting their numbers is a waste of time. Because the Kikuyus are able to mobilize the Bukusus, because both of them are migrants. And their people, the vast majority of their people
Have
are
they been
living...
voting together?
Yeah, that's the point.
They've been voting
yes,
together?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Bukusus and Kikuyus.
Yes, and
Okay.
then you mobilize the Kisis until 2013, for obvious reasons that are known.
Yes.
The Kisis have voted with the Kikuyus because they are also migrants.
Except for that one
No,
election.
until 2013 for obvious reasons that you and I know.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is useless to cite figures and align them to a community or communities. Raila Odinga's people, the rules are not only in Luyu Nyanza. In Nairobi, they control almost half.
But they're not the majority in Nairobi.
No, they're not the majority.
Yes.
It's not about the majority of numbers. It is the capacity to mobilize beyond your numbers.
Prof, I don't think it's you say nonsense to, what is the word you use to look at the figures? I don't think, because our discussion is based on the numbers that might decide the next election, based on what Kioni says and what you say, that if the issues on the table are not addressed, then you're likely to have a presidential candidate. What if the issues on the table are addressed by any of those candidates?
Let me mention
then
this.
How many votes does this candidate need?
You didn't allow me to complete the thing. You suppose we are on a TV and we need to project the facts to the Kenyans, that the numbers as projected may not reflect the influence that a single community has.
Okay.
If you go by the population of Kikuyu 17%, and then you say that is their influence, then you forgot the political reality that the Kikuyu, for obvious reason, are able to mobilize beyond their numbers. The Luo are able to mobilize beyond their numbers, the Kalenjin. That's one point. The other point is that what Mheshimiwa Kioni has been saying about us sitting back, for the first time, we are seeing people climbing our mountains. We have a lot of hills in many of our lands. And Raila Odinga the other day made a very memorable statement that he has actually gotten, he talked about a donkey that is now able to climb to the mountains.
The mountain width.
And he's simply echoing the truth of this matter. Mudavadi will have to move. You know, Kalonzo will have to move. Everybody will have to move to basically convince the Mount Kenya people, you know, that their vote is important. What a better way to build the nation than that, where the country, which has the community which has been the target of negative sentiments, is now the darling and the deciding factor in this election.
Because it's a game of numbers.
What might be forgotten?
Let me throw in a word on these numbers that you have given us. If you take and I think it's important to pay attention to Rift Valley. When you say 3.8,
yes,
there is a sizable number within the 3.8 that actually is within Mount Kenya, and that is Nakuru and Laikipia. So you are down to 2 point something if you remove those numbers. Also almost 1.8. Right. You are going to throw it back there and you see it coming to almost 6. But even the numbers as they are, if you have 4.3 voters from Mount Kenya region and you bring them together with Nyanza, you are at
at about 2.6.
Yes, you are at 6.9.
Yes.
If you bring them together with the Western, 6.7.
Yes.
Yes, 6.7. If it's Left Valley and Nyanza, 6.4. If it's Left Valley and Western, 6.2. So whichever arrangement you make, if you have the Mount Kenya with you, you still go to the top.
Head start. Yeah. You have the head start. Yeah. Just a small correction. I've been sent this by Honorable Gumbo. He's just correcting what he says you said that escaped us. Matiba was not elected in 1997 because he was not in the ballot. Because he says Ngenye Kariuki was the Kiharu MP from 1997 to 2000.
No.
Gumbo says that.
No, Matiba was candidate for Sabasaba Asiri in 1997. Only that people ignored it.
Yeah,
for
I have 15
reasons.
candidates here. Moi Kibaki, Raila, Michael Wamala, Charity Ngilu, First Rain, Martin Shikuku, Katana Mkangi, George Anyona, Kimani Wanyoike, Koigi Wamwere, Munyo Ayaki, Godfrey Mwere, Wangare Madhai, second woman. Last week you did that. And Stephen Olude and David Waweru of UMA, he's not there.
I want to say that Matiba was a factor. He may not have been there. But yeah, so the sentiment was very strong. I do recall it's actually after 22nd of December, because I was doing research around that time for Kenya Human Rights Commission. It's only after 22nd that the vote turned.
That was 7 days before the election.
Yeah, the vote turned, and people say, now let's put our votes in one basket. Right. And most people migrated to Kibaki.
Okay. And people are so hopeful. 15 of them.
Yeah.
So hopeful.
I want to pick it up from where you left it off when you're talking about the numbers and saying that if you have even half, perhaps, of Mount Kenya, then you just need to collect a few more votes from the other regions and you're safe. Could it be the reason perhaps we are now seeing other emergent parties from Mount Kenya? We saw the MK, and everybody, just trying to pull to their side and come up with as much clout as they can, because perhaps they're hoping to deputize someone who's running. The running mate question. Are you safest when your running mate is coming from Central? And is that perhaps why we are seeing every leader in Central want to come out as a party leader in their own right with some formidable clout around it, to build some conversation and interest around them for this very purpose of ending up as a running mate to any of the presidential contenders?
Without doubt, and you cannot begrudge anybody who thinks or who aims at that.
True.
But I am saying that to me, that would be the last thing that we would want to think about as a community. Because if you look at the Constitution is very clear. I've had people saying that the Deputy President is not being given work or is not being allowed to do work by the President. The Constitution has nothing for the office of the Deputy President. In fact, your budget line is that of the office of the President. When you want to buy tea, the tea comes from the office of the President. Money is given from the office of the President. And to sacrifice the interest of the community on the pedestal of wanting to become a deputy president, that is the most selfish thing that you can do. And that should never be on the table. Any discussion that we are going, that should not be on the table. Because if we haven't run, look at the deputy president. I mean, for 4 years, he chose to move around and do politicking. That now seems to end up with almost nothing, given the trend that we have seen since Kiamba I think it is important to pay attention to the date of Kiaba.
You can't say it amounts
Yes,
to nothing.
I haven't said amounts, it seems. The word I said is seems. And we are working hard to make that seems becomes a reality. And I am not, that is not anything that we are saying in the back room. It's in the front, for the reason that what he has now put on the table as a solution to our interests, a solution to our agricultural issues, a solution to the employment levels in our area, a solution to industrialization in our area, a solution to housing in our area, I do not think the wheelbarrow will help us achieve those things. You haven't answered I have not answered your issue. So you have seen the office of the deputy president, and let me say this because it's a bit difficult to say it, but it is the way it is, and that is the discussion we had at Naivasha. Perhaps if I give the background as to why we put the deputy president position in the constitution, you'll understand. Moi kept us back before his final term without Mudavadi. He kept us without a year, almost a year plus. And we didn't have a vice president. And the question that we're asking is, what would have become of this country if he had been called to heaven by the good roads? By that, we would have gotten into a very difficult scenario. Of course, there's some constitutional provisions, but but it would have really put us in a spin. So we said, to ensure that we are never ever again held at ransom as a country, let us now deal with this mischief by having a spare wheel. Having a spare wheel in the constitution, for purposes of dealing with the eventuality, in the event or such eventuality, in the event that the president is not there, for reasons that are beyond our control, what do we do? He steps in. And the same thing for the office of the governor. There are no functions assigned to those offices. You have no influence in the government other than the sympathy that the president may want to give you from time to time. If he decides to shut you out, you are out for 5 years. Now imagine a community with this number of votes, with the number, with the contribution that we also make in the economy, among others, and also the difficulties that our people are going through, and we sacrifice all those interests so that you can become the deputy president. That would be the most naive thing that we want to discuss. And that is what made it difficult at the very beginning for us to be called to a table and say, you want us to come to the table because you want to become the deputy president? I mean, that is the most awkward thing that you can do.
The presidency or
so
nothing
that
for the central...
it is, it is our interests or the presidency.
Or the presidents from central.
Our interests or the presidency.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I have to take you back again because there's a very interesting observation here. I know you've said we shouldn't have the debate on debt. Just from you, I don't even want him to respond. But the question that I'm being asked here is between the leadership of this country who are owed debts and the Kenyans who are promised things by the Jubilee government. Who is owed? A good question. Who's owed? Who's owed more? Between the leadership, like you've spelled it out, if you have to pay debts, you have to go to 1963 first.
No, beyond. At independence.
At independence, 63. So the question from Salim in Kisumu is, who is owed? The Kenyans who are promised?
Now, you see, the promises that are binding are put in what we call manifesto. And every party before election has to come up with a manifesto. So if there are any promises that were made and you want to hold Jubilee accountable, it is to look at the 229 promises that Jubilee made in 2013, which were now reduced to 4 in now more comprehensive, the Big Four agenda of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Those others were fulfilled with degrees, some 100%, others 89. Some I didn't see any none except the stadiums.
Don't take us there.
Except the stadiums.
Don't take us there, Prof.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Let's not be emotional about it. The truth of the matter is...
Kenyans are emotional about promises.
Promises were made. Those are legitimate and legal promises on account of which you can be held accountable. These are the promises about who will rule for 10 years and who will be ruled. This is not a kingdom, is it? It's not an empire,
But
is
there are
it?
promises that were made in
Julius
public.
Caesar promises his nephew, Augustus Caesar, that you rule after me. And
Okay.
therefore, if Julius Caesar is not allowed to rule, then he takes the country to war. That's not who we are. We are a democracy where every vote counts. So can you go and get every vote? And this is what Raila Odinga and others are doing, walking the countryside, asking people to support them.
Raila Odinga has not declared presidency.
Others would argue that we only
I'm
realize this when it's time to pay debt, not when we are making that promise.
What do you mean? But we are here to pay debts. No, do you want us to pay debts?
The moral debt, is it?
Which more? There are no moral debts. Which moral debts? And who promised? I mean, I don't remember President Uhuru Kenyatta calling a meeting in Mount Kenya
This is
region.
unbelievable.
No, I don't remember. To be honest, I don't remember President Uhuru Kenyatta calling a meeting in Rurengo or Uhura Stadium or what you call Gigiri, the Kiambu, Limuru, to tell Mount Kenya that now I want to borrow a loan. I want to incur debt among the so and so. Now, political statements
you will
are
pay it in 10 years.
One thing,
political statements, and we'll pay
back
it in 10 years.
2013, Prof.
Where?
Back in 2013, when I had this promise of 10-10,
Yes.
and you can go. It is I don't know whether you are still on the Nation newspaper and TV then. We had an interview one morning. I think it was NTV. AM Live, and I said that this would be the most naive thing if the president, if the deputy president
Believes the
that not believes the president, but believes that you can promise the vote of my son, who is not, or my daughter, who is not of age today, that you are telling them to go and vote 10 years from now, you still vote for this person.
And
Common sense, political common sense will tell you that these are things that you say. But I also wanted to say this about debt. If you really want to push the issues of debt, of course, I agree with the gentleman that has called from Kisumu.
Salim, yes.
Salim, that, and the issue of debt. But let me say this again. If we then decide to say that they are debts, then you start with the oldest debt and pay the oldest. So you can look at the many debts we have to pay before we get to you, if you want us to deal with that issue of debt. But the debts that are crucial are the promises you make to voters.
To the people.
That's the manifesto.
I totally
in the
agree.
manifesto,
Yes,
which are legal.
Yes, I totally agree with what Salim is asking. And at the end of every term, the government in power must always go back and look at the scorecard. Did we promise this? Did we do it? And that is why to win a second term is normally a tall order. Because people are looking at, you promised this, how much of it did you deliver? But also, it even becomes very difficult when you're now in the transition, like we are now today. When we have the 10 years of Jubilee, President Uhuru Kenyatta is going home, and the deputy is struggling to take over, but he had disowned the scorecard of Jubilee and decided to take our own road.
Only for the second time.
I don't know.
The first time he says he was in it.
If you want to make your own statement, don't qualify mine. Let me just finish mine.
Yes.
He decided to become our own ranger, and he said Jubilee is not doing. Jubilee is not doing. Of course, then at times he wakes up and goes and launches a road somehow, like he was doing some 2 weeks ago. The thing is this. If those promises that you made, and this is where I think the DP has an issue, because if you look at the clips that you have and look at who was making promises on stadiums, he was really focal on the issues of stadiums.
The president was right behind him.
Yes, and you need to look at the demeanor of the
president.
He
didn't
pay attention. He didn't.
No,
but the fact that
he was unnerved.
He was amused.
You could see he has goose pimples. But we have fulfilled this.
Prof, no, we cannot qualify that.
All we know is President Uhuru Kenyatta was right, Deputy President William Ruto, when they were making the promises.
With the goose pimples.
We couldn't see that, but all we know is he was right.
Goose pimples are
But
hard
also
to see
remember,
from
and we are not here to try and separate the two, but also remember the scenario at Bomas, when the president started saying what was behind the formation of BBI and how the DP rushed to him and told him, please don't say more. So there are things that you will say, and I will say we are together, but for purposes of good manners, I would avoid contradicting in public, but not because I totally agree with you. But when they come from your mouth I'll hold you accountable also, more than anything. We have the issues of the stadium. We have also, I don't want to talk about
laptops,
the issues of the
health.
laptop. So the issues that have not been delivered. And this is where, as a deputy, you have to be careful. If you want to run for the office of the president after your boss goes home, you have to be very careful with the scorecard of your party ticket. Because it is that
The burden of the incumbents
you
is on you.
will be running on it. And trying to run away from it is actually the highest mark of dishonesty. And people will punish you for it.
Okay.
And I think that is what is now awakening the camp that has been formed around the DP.
So I'm sure the issue of the debt is settled.
It's settled. We won't discuss it again. It's settled.
Maybe next time when we call you here. But also we don't have too much time. My last question, perhaps. There seems to be, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and of course I know you will, the absence of a unifying leader in central Kenya. And perhaps that's why we are seeing everything that is happening and somewhat chaos. The mountain doesn't seem to be moving to one direction. We're all pulling in different directions. And also we've seen a lot of political aggression against President Uhuru Kenyatta. Will he be able to unify this region, to protect what you call the region's interests ahead of 2022?
I said at the beginning, and I don't want to repeat it, that we have shifted radically from the politics of individuals to politics of interests. Now, if President Kenyatta comes onto the table and say this is what our interests are and this what must be pushed, we will be not supporting President Kenyatta. We will be supporting the common agenda he has articulated for the region. So we have moved. The mountain has moved, and the mountain has moved from personalities to issues. Because we can no longer carry our politics here on the basis of personalities, because we will be demonized by other communities. This anti-Mount Kenya sentiment is going to prevail. Yet, when we stick to issues, for example, we want somebody who is going to address our agriculture, because our land is diminishing and our crops are not fetching as much as they used to fetch earlier on. Somebody who is going to show us how we are going to transit to a new economy where we will educate our kids without going for bursaries. That would be somebody who is now dealing with issues. But now when you talk about a unifying leader and talking about this, what we don't need are those catwalkers who are showing, parading their betters to become deputies or prime ministers or whatever they want to become. We want people who are going to articulate issues. If you're catwalking in order to be a deputy to X,
Prof, someone else would argue, that for the first time the Central seems lost. They don't have that unifying leader. That's why we're being led from outside.
Before, Prof, allow me to just say this, and concede that without doubt we don't have a learning center as of now. Nothing unique about it. It is other communities have gone through it. Only that, like when Moi was exiting from the leadership of the Kalenjin community, William did all manner of things to come in and show leadership. It is a question of now waiting to see whether what happened within that community is what was supposed to have happened or there was a grab. Because if it was a grab, then the community will struggle for a long time to ever impress the others using that particular axis that emerged. You will see this happening also in Nyanza when the former prime minister exit from that place. You will see it. It's nothing unusual. It's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before you also see this region settle. And once they are able to settle, you will see some continuity for another maybe 10, 15, 20 years. And remember, before Kibaki became the president, there was a team that you would listen to what they were saying. We had Mwai Kibaki, we had Jega Karume, we had Michuki, we had Matiba, we had Akina Matere, and they would sit around the table, and whenever they would wake up, whatever one of them said on behalf remained the holding position. That is going to emerge in a short while. So without doubt, that is cooking, and I'm sure it will
We should be able
come
to see
out.
something soon.
What is very dangerous is the greed that is being exhibited by some people who are actually mortgagors on those political tables until the other day, when they woke up to the reality that there was something that was more important that was put on the table by the president that we did not smell. And listen to what this lady in Kivumbi said the other day when Raila went for a birthday party. You need to pay attention to the words of this lady. He said, we have always been told that you can even swallow us. So you are like this. You can even talk to us. You can come to us. You are a good person. If you continue talking to us, we will listen to you. That's already a center. It may be outside. It may be outside the community, but it's already a center of a person people can start listening to, even if he is not from within, and that is how the within will also form. So pay attention to some of these things. Yes.
The other point to clarify, in addition to that, is this notion that the mountain is rumbling, and it is the only place in this country rumbling. Leadership is about competition. Now, if you look at the Kamba community, we have about 4 candidates who have declared. We have Kalonzo Musyoka, we have Ngilu, we have Mutua, and we have Kibudha Kibwana. They have declared. Now, if you come to Ruyaland, we have Mudavadi, we have Weta, we have Mukisa, we have Wamarwa, and many others. When you come to the Kalenjin Rift Valley, we have Gideon Moi and we have William Ruto. So the idea of multiplicity of leadership is not negative. It's part of the democratic process. And the moment you have hegemonic leadership where you have no challenge, then you have a problem. In other words, you can say, this is a region which have had many leaders, but a strong leader. So that even in all the elections, we have seen there was Martha Karua, there's Peter Kenneth here, there is Muita here. They are all candidates challenging Uhuru Kenyatta, and Uhuru Kenyatta is a stronger candidate. What Mheshimiwa Kioni and I are saying...
Muita never challenged Uhuru, Prof. He never ran when Uhuru in 2002.
Yeah, in
2002, yes. He ran on SDP.
So in short, the multiplicity of leadership reflects the maturity of democracy. Because under Moi, to just challenge the position, the president would have cost you a detention. Now we have moved there. So what is the point now? As we move to the politics of interest, the winner is the one who will articulate the interests of the communities or constituencies better than the other. And therefore, if in Mount Kenya region, the interests are not taken care of, the leader who will articulate those interests in the loudest way and the soundest way is the one who is going to win the day. And that will be the leader among the leaders. And therefore, you cannot rule out a Mount Kenya leader if the interests are not
I'd like to ask you a final question. We've run out of time. Do you think Mount Kenya generally lost as a result of the loss of BBI? Lost. There were so many good things that Mount Kenya could have and should have benefited from. Let
me first of all say that BBI is dangerous for its enemies in its grave than it was when it was alive. Because we are beginning to understand what we have lost, and therefore those who have killed our dreams by virtue of demonizing something rather than improving on it. If you put on the table, say, we are supporting this one, but take care of this and this one, that's another. But a whole scale, the demolition of a document which promised equality to the people of Mount Kenya in terms of parliamentary representation, that one man, one vote is a case, which promised the equality in terms of access to national resources, and which promised access to equal citizenship, then you cannot tell me that that document is not going to hurt you. It is more dangerous from its grave than from its alive.
Can I say it in a layman's language? So not a professorial statement. You know, the handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga enabled the Kikuyus to get what they never got since 1963. Equal representation. Daragwa constituency was going to survive because of that handshake. You objected to the BBI so that Daragwa can die. You objected to the BBI so that I can lose the opportunity that was on the table, 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. You objected to the BBI that was going to give me per capita equal to what you are getting, so that you are not getting 20 and I'm getting 4, but we all get 12. When those things are made clear to the people, you will have difficulties telling us that you ever at one time stood for our interest.
Okay.
And I want to say this. It is not that Raila was taking it away from any other community. We were not taking it away from what is coming to your regions. It is, we are saying, going forward, when we earn this amount of money from our taxes, let us share it equitably. Okay. That was never going to be achieved for our community without the support of Raila Odinga. And I want to tell you, if you are talking of debts, there is no greater debt than a person who allows your children to get the same equal treatment and not be removed from the slavery of being called a marginalizer when they have been marginalized for the last 60 years.
And it's not their
what other greater debt can you be looking to?
Prof, finish this for us.
So we are saying, in short, that it is immoral to take away 53 billion shillings from a region and substitute it with a wheelbarrow, which you don't know what is going to carry. Because we are talking about poor people who may not even have something to carry with a wheelbarrow because you've impoverished them. And this is the tragedy of the anti-BBI coalition. Because what they have done without knowing is that they have taken away the dreams of a people about being equal citizens to other citizens, being equal people who access the same resources like other Kenyans, being people who are not demonized for nothing. And here we are. 2022 is the deciding, is the Rubicon, if you wish. And in that Rubicon, the vote will be cast. Forget about these ideas of who is in the grassroots or who is not in the grassroots. When it becomes clear that you took away the dreams of our dreams and those of our children, then you will not survive.
And we know what
that
to do.
goes.
We know what to do.
You know, you said that last time.
That sounds like a threat.
And it's not a threat.
Yes,
No.
Prof. Asante Sana, always a pleasure having you on the white
so
table.
much.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa,
It's a
so much
pleasure
for
to
coming. And thank you for
And for
watching.
staying for so long.
Yes,
I
that
mean,
was
that's
staying.
And you have paid your debts.
You paid our debts for today. You're the first people to pay the debt. All right. And thank you for watching. My name is Ken Mijungu.
My name is Akisa Wandera. We'll be seeing you next Monday. Thank you very much for staying with us. Have a good night.
Thank you.